You know the feeling, don't you? That strange, disorienting ache that hits you right in the center of your chest the moment you walk into a crowded room. People laugh, conversations rise and fall, bodies move around you like waves hitting the shore, and yet you feel like you're watching it all from behind glass. You are there technically, physically, but somehow you are also not there at all. It's a peculiar kind of loneliness, the kind that doesn't come from isolation, but from disconnection, from being surrounded by life you cannot quite touch, from knowing the choreography of social interaction but not the emotional intimacy that makes it meaningful. And deep inside, you carry a paradox. The very skill that once protected you, the ability to fade, to observe, to detach, is now the thing that starves you. The mask you built to survive has become the wall that keeps you separate. This isn't an ordinary kind of loneliness. It's not about lacking people. It's about lacking access to them, to yourself, to the emotional world you were forced to mute a long time ago. Maybe you grew up as the quiet one, the responsible one, the mature one. Maybe you learned that your feelings were inconvenient, or that your presence had to be measured, cautious, curated. So you learned to stay in the shadows, to read the room before entering it, to adjust your tone, your posture, your energy to avoid being too much. You learned to be safe. And safety, back then, meant invisibility. But invisibility is a double-edged sword. It protects you from rejection, but it also hides you from connection. It shields your heart, but it also buries it. So now, you stand in a room full of people, laughing, talking, living, and you feel like an echo of yourself. You wonder, why does everyone else seem to belong so easily? Why does the world feel like a party you were invited to, but never fully allowed to join? And more importantly, why can't anyone see the version of you that exists beneath the practiced calm, beneath the social competence, beneath the carefully composed smile? This video is about you, the person who has been lonely for so long, they've learned to hide it even from themselves. This is the psychology of the soul that learned to survive by disappearing. To understand this kind of loneliness, we must begin with the wiring beneath it, the psychological architecture that makes a person feel emotionally distant even when surrounded by others. The first concept is hypervigilance, a state in which your nervous system stays on constant alert. This often develops in childhood environments where emotional unpredictability was the norm. Hypervigilance doesn't just watch the room, it scans it, evaluates it, pre-processes every possible threat. But here's the hidden cost. A hypervigilant brain struggles to relax into connection because it is always preparing for danger, even when none exists. The second concept is self-alienation, a phenomenon in which a person disconnects from their own needs, emotions, or desires because, at some point, those parts of them were punished, dismissed, or ignored. If you learned early that being emotionally expressive invited conflict, withdrawal, or ridicule, your brain adapted by muting itself. The loneliness in the crowded room is not just social, it is internal. You feel disconnected from others because you have been disconnected from yourself. The third concept is avoidant attachment, a relational style formed when caregivers were physically present but emotionally unavailable. Avoidant attachment doesn't mean you don't want connection. It means connection feels unsafe, overwhelming, or unpredictable. So you learned to regulate yourself alone. You learned independence so thoroughly it calcified into emotional solitude. Over time, these patterns changed the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for self-reflection and social interpretation. A person who grows up unseen often develops a narrative that says, I must manage alone. I shouldn't burden others. I am safer on the edges. This narrative becomes not just a belief, but a neurological pathway. Your brain literally becomes more fluent in withdrawal than in openness, more practiced at observing than participating, more familiar with distance than with closeness. So when you walk into a room full of people, your nervous system doesn't read safety, it reads analysis, it reads caution, it reads the subtle whisper, be here, but not fully. Show up, but not too much. Stay close, but not close enough to be hurt. And that is the heart of this psychology. You are not lonely because people aren't around. You are lonely because you have been trained psychologically, emotionally, neurologically to stay hidden even when you crave connection. There is a profound, invisible grief carried by people who feel lonely in crowded rooms. It is the grief of the unexpressed self, the grief of the emotions never shared, the grief of the voice that learned to whisper even when it wanted to scream. This is not simple sadness. It is existential, a quiet sorrow that asks, if no one truly sees me, do I exist in any meaningful way? Carl Jung once said, loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. This type of loneliness is precisely that, not the absence of people, but the absence of emotional resonance. The emotional cost is heavy. You begin to feel like a background character in your own life, like you were always present but never central, like you were tolerated but not chosen, like you were socially competent but emotionally untouchable. You learn to perform belonging instead of experiencing it, to participate in conversation without participating in intimacy, to smile while carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. And beneath all of this lies the core fear, the fear of being truly seen. Because being seen means risking rejection. It means revealing the unpolished parts of yourself. It means admitting that you want connection, something that once felt dangerous or forbidden. So you remain half present, half visible, half live, and the world, sensing your distance, responds accordingly. People talk to you, but not deeply. They include you, but don't invite you closer. They notice you, but they don't see you. It is not their fault. You have trained yourself to be unrecognizable. This is the philosophical tragedy of the socially masked self. You sacrifice authenticity for belonging, and end up with neither. So how does this early conditioning appear in adulthood? How does the person who feels lonely in a crowded room behave in their day-to-day life? Here are 6 major manifestations. 1. You become socially adaptable, but emotionally unavailable. You can blend into any room. You know how to listen, how to respond, how to keep things light. But when someone tries to get close, you freeze. You retreat. You deflect with humor or intellectualization. 2. You struggle to receive love, even when it's genuine. Compliments make you uncomfortable. Affection feels suspicious. Part of you is always waiting for the moment the other person realizes you re not worth choosing. 3. You overthink social interactions to the point of emotional exhaustion. After a simple gathering, you replay every moment, analyzing your tone, your gestures, your presence. You are not living the moment, you are managing it. 4. You maintain relationships, but rarely deepen them. You have acquaintances, not intimates. People know the surface of your life, but not the interior. You share facts, not feelings. 5. You excel in independence, but starve in intimacy. You are good at living alone, working alone, thinking alone. But when it comes to emotional closeness, you find yourself lost, like somebody handed you a language you were never taught. 6. You feel like an observer in your own life, even during joyful moments. You feel slightly disconnected from your own experience, as if you were watching yourself rather than participating. But here's the critical truth. These are coping strategies, not personality traits. You are not inherently distant. You are not naturally cold. You are not wired for loneliness. You are wired for survival. And survival taught you to minimize vulnerability. It taught you to be self-sufficient. It taught you to enter a room by scanning for danger instead of connection. The first step of unlearning is witnessing these patterns without shame, without self-gaslighting, without telling yourself you're overreacting or too sensitive or dramatic. You are not broken. You are conditioned. Healing this pattern is not about becoming more social, more extroverted, or more talkative. It is about becoming more connected to yourself. The first form of healing is inner child reparenting, learning to give yourself the emotional validation you never received. When you sit with your loneliness instead of shaming it, you begin repairing the original wound, the belief that your emotions are too much. The second form is shadow work, which means confronting the parts of yourself you've suppressed, your needs, your fears, your tenderness, the parts you learned to hide in order to be accepted. The third form is choosing softness, allowing yourself to exist without performance, to enter a room not as the observer, but as the participant, to let people meet the real you, even if only in small doses at first. Philosopher Kierkegaard wrote, "To be human is to be in relation." And part of healing is relearning that relationships with yourself, with others, with the world, are not threats. They are nourishment. You heal not by forcing yourself into social situations, but by slowly, compassionately allowing your nervous system to feel safe in connection again. And in time, something remarkable happens. The crowded room feels less like a stage and more like a landscape. The noise becomes less overwhelming. The distance begins to shrink. You stop watching life from behind glass and start touching it with your own hands. So here is your truth, the one I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. You were never meant to be invisible. You learned invisibility because it was safer than being hurt. Now, you deserve a life where safety and visibility can exist together. If this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these words, share this video, subscribe, and stay connected. Not because you need to be fixed, but because you deserve to become whole.